Okay, good morning, afternoon, evening to everyone who is joining us on this very auspicious day in the Africa Matters Ambassadors Program. I am Laika Martin. I am the AMAP Program Lead, and today we will be going through the community engagement projects of our ambassadors. Our ambassadors have been hard at work at actually implementing projects. And we will be going through some of the ambassadors today in our first part of the presentations. And they will be sharing some of the work that they have done within their communities. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who is joining us both on the Zoom call and who will be watching this pre-recording after this session. It is a great honor to have you here with us today, and I hope that today's session will be one of enlightenment, that it is one that shows you the work that African youth are doing within their respective communities, and also demonstrates the impact of the Africa Matters Ambassadors Program. So just to go through today's agenda for the session, so our agenda is quite brief because most of the things will be coming from the ambassadors. So first up, we will have our program assistant steward. I'm like going through the overview of the community engagement project component of the program. Then he will hand it over to our fellow program assistant Kiribone, who will be moderating the CEP presentation segment, and she will also be moderating thereafter the Q&A session from the audience if they have any questions with regards to the presentations of the ambassadors. So attendants, if you actually have any questions that you would like to ask any of the ambassadors, please do hold them off until the end of the presentation segment. And then thereafter, you can pose your questions to the ambassadors for whatever that they have said within their presentations. Okay, so I'm going to, without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Stuart to just briefly outline what exactly this entire community engagement project component is in AMAP. Over to you, Stuart.
Thank you so much, Laika. So one of the core components of the Africa Matters Ambassadors Program is to plan and implement a community engagement project to kind of give that practical, component to the program, because a lot of the online learning skills development stuff or component is very quite theoretical. And so the CEP is really a chance to not only apply a lot of the skills and knowledge that the ambassadors have learned throughout the program, but it's also an opportunity to help them to learn the processes of what it takes to be a community worker, what are some of the important skills that they'll need, like grant writing, like monitoring and evaluation, like actually project management, right? Some of these skills, and the best way to learn all of that is of course, to actually do it. So that's just kind of like a rough idea of what the community engagement projects are. And they also kind of just help allow and serve as an opportunity for the ambassadors to engage and to help and kind of work within their own communities, right? To learn more, not just about themselves, but about their communities and the people that they're trying to empower and engage. And so we really believe that through the community engagement project, we are spreading that reach, so the ambassadors themselves are not the only ones who are learning, but the impact of the AMAP program has its reaches far outside of just the ambassadors. So that is essentially just a bit of background. And so they've started working on it with the planning phase all the way in when the program even started around April. We started planning with them and assisting them in their planning phase. And then, of course, that kind of developed into the implementation phase that kind of took place from October all the way up until now. And so, yeah, we are quite excited to see what some of the ambassadors have done. The projects are not necessarily theme-based, so we don't have a specific, type of project that they need to do. And so it's about them being able to identify a key issue in the community. And so not limiting them really allows us to get a diverse set of different projects and ways in which we can all impact and benefit our communities. So yeah, that's just a little bit about the community engagement projects. Over to my colleague Katie Bone, who will just kind of moderate the presentation.
Thank you very much, Stuart, for that. So we are very excited to see what the ambassadors have prepared for us, what have they been up to, because really CEP is a fundamental component of the program, because now we get to see the ambassadors, showing what they've learned for the program and how they utilize the knowledge and skills they have acquired. So the rules of the presentations for today is that each ambassador will get 15 minutes for the presentation. And we will follow a specific list that we created. And the first person that will be presenting will be Daisy. But before you present Daisy, just please indicate if you're sharing the screen at your end, or do you want us to share the presentation on your behalf? Just indicate.
You can share the screen.
Okay, no worries. So with that, we'll reserve the questions towards the end of the presentations once all the ambassadors have presented. So without wasting any time, I would say, Daisy, the floor is yours.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Daisy Mukasa. I'm from Kenya. And today I'll be taking you through my community engagement project, which was focusing on quality maternal health care. Can you go to the next slide? The next one. So the main problem that I was dealing with under maternal health care is obstetric fistula. And for people who might not be familiar with what fistula is, it's an abnormal opening that develops between a woman's genital tract and her urinary tract when she experiences obstructed labor. And when a woman has fistula, it means that she cannot control her bowels. So she's continuously leaking urine and fecal matter. And from the research that I did across Africa and Asia, over 2 million girls and women are affected every year. And the sad thing about this condition is that most of the women who are affected do not seek medical attention, mainly because they are stigmatized. There's a lot of shame attached to the condition. So they are stigmatized and discriminated against, and most of them end up isolating themselves. So you find that many women live with the condition for as long as 10 years without trying to seek medical attention. Can you go to the next slide? So in my community where I was implementing the CEP, I found out that most of the women were being stigmatized and discriminated against because the rest of the community members did not have a good understanding of what fistula is, because people just knew that this woman was normal before she was pregnant and before she went to give birth. and now she has this condition that no one can explain. So most people come up with their own explanations which are not accurate or are misinformed. For example, saying that it's because of witchcraft, or it's because the woman committed adultery when she was pregnant, so she's being punished. And because people come up with these reasons, it leads to more stigmatization. And so, can you go to the next slide? So to address this issue, I thought of coming up with an advocacy program whose main role will be to educate the community, because when the community members are educated and they have access to enough and accurate information about fistula, then they'll be more supportive to the women who are affected. And also the women who have fistula, most of them are not informed about the treatment options. They don't know how to access treatment. So that's why they stay with the condition for very long. So the advocacy program is meant to cover that gap, to provide access to information to the general community, and also access to information about treatment to the women who are affected, and also information about quality maternal health care in general, because in most cases fistula starts because women and girls um, do not understand the importance of quality maternal health care and sexual and reproductive health. So this advocacy program is mainly about educational workshops to educate the people, and then collaborating with community health workers, because community health workers in the village, they have direct contact with community members. So I thought it would be a good idea to collaborate with them. As they interact with the people, they can also use that chance to educate them on fistula, and also running educational programs with community health workers, because when everyone is educated, then they'll know how to support women who have fistula, and the stigma will be eradicated. And I also believe that women who have fistula will be encouraged to go and seek treatment, and it will also be easy for them to reintegrate back into the society after they've been treated. Yeah, hence they will live better quality lives. Next, please. Next one. So I did a workshop. I collaborated with a local clinic to do the workshop, and the main topics covered during the workshops were mostly preparing well, like quality maternal health care, women preparing themselves while being pregnant, and also education on risk factors of fistula, how to prevent yourself from getting fistula, and how to support women who have fistula. And from that workshop, one of the three things that I consider success was the fact that the number of men had greatly increased from the prototyping sessions that I had done before. I consider this a success because in most conversations that I had with men, most of them did not think that maternal health care was an issue that should concern men. It was like a women issue only. So seeing that the number of men in attendance had significantly increased was a point of success for me. And also the number of people in attendance generally was a success, because in the beginning, only about 30 people used to attend the workshops. By this time, around 55 people are in attendance. So I think that was pretty impressive. And the level with which the people are willing to participate and engage in the conversation, and also their willingness to attend any other workshops in future was a success for me. Next. So while working on this project, I faced a couple of challenges, and one of them was working alone because I was like the planning and the implementation, I was doing it alone. So at some point I felt like it was so overwhelming, and I think that in future when I'm planning to work on a project like this, I would think of involving other people to help me with the planning and also the implementation and also the budgeting. I did not anticipate the number of people that came. So I kind of under budgeted for the whole project, but it eventually worked. But from that, I learned to take my financial lessons seriously. Like I need to go back to the drawing board and understand budgeting and also just being prepared in case something like that happens in future, and generally just planning because at some point I felt like I was rushing through everything, as I've mentioned, because I was planning alone. So I've learned to, even though I faced just challenges, I learned a lesson from it to just be more organized and prioritize my tasks and also involve other people. Next. Can you move to the next slide? Sorry, the next one. So sorry, the one before this, sorry, like 2 slides behind. Yes, the memorable moment. Yes. So I wanted to share a moment that really like it stood out for me during the implementation of the workshop. While I was prototyping the workshop before the implementation, I met a woman, she's called Esther. She was 68 by the time we met, and she had lived with fistula for over 30 years. She had not tried to seek treatment because she didn't know about it, and her husband had abandoned her and her children too. So she lived alone, and she had never gone out of the house for like more than 20 years. But then while prototyping, I managed to put her in contact with someone from the Worldwide Fistula Fund, and she got treated. She could not work for like more than 10 years, but during the workshop that we did while implementing the CEP, she could walk again after being treated, and she was doing really well. So that's a moment that really stood out for me, and I'm proud that I got to have that moment with her, because I know it's really, it was also really important to her. Yes, can we go to the next slide? Next. So as I'd mentioned before, the workshop had a total of 55 people who attended it, and it included like administrative leaders, like the assistant chiefs and village elders, because I thought it would be important because these are people who are in contact with the rest of the community in different places. So it would be a good idea to reach out to them so that the message can easily spread out in the community, and also health workers and religious leaders. I think that the access to information about fistula has really spread within the community since implementing the workshop. Gauging from the number of people in attendance, the number of people who can confidently stand up and explain what fistula is, I think that points to the fact that the project was impactful in the community. And I think that I can improve this project by bringing in more people to work with. For example, organizations working on women empowerment or sexual and reproductive health care. because I believe that it's important to reach out to a wider audience, and I can do that by working with other organizations. Next. Yeah. So going forward, in order to make the project sustainable, I am looking to identify like potential partners and donors who I can work with, because I realize that most of the activities of the project need funds, and I need to have like a sustainable source of fund for me to be able to implement it. So I think having partnerships would be really will go a long way in helping me to do that. And I'm also intending on bringing in more people so that I can have a team to work with. I know that will make the impact of the project to go even wider, and also it will help me as an individual to do work that is good quality instead of like rushing through everything alone. Yes, can we go to the next slide? Yes, and that's the end of my presentation, but I'm really grateful for everyone who took their time to give me feedback, to Leica, the entire team, always giving me feedback on ways to improve the project, and also other ambassadors. It was really inspiring hearing from you and the support throughout this whole time through the planning and the implementation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daisy, for that. Indeed, you have created a local network and an atmosphere where an ongoing discussion will always be held. And also, it's really nice and it's touching to hear about Esther's story. And we're very happy that she got the help that she needed. Moving forward, so the next ambassador that we're presenting will be Joy. So Joy, if you could also indicate if you'll be sharing screen or end, or you want the team to share on your behalf. Okay. Then I will open the floor for you, Joy. 15 minutes.
Hello, you can share my screen.
Okay, thank you. Would you proceed, Joy?
So my project was about reintegration of recovering drug addicts in the community and in their respective families. And so the community problem or the issue was drug abuse is widespread in Kenya and especially in the region. As a result, HIV and AIDS and hepatitis and others. From the Kenyan government has implemented reduction strategies, mainly as a treatment program. However, no programs have been launched to ensure that recovering addicts are successfully reintegrated in families. So, if you look at this case with the harm reduction, the main objective of this program is to reduce the HIV and AIDS transmission. However, we should be able to look at a broader picture in that. So if we're talking about reducing the HIV transmission, because the medically assisted treatment is all about giving them methadone to facilitate self-withdrawal from the opioids. So what happens after their treatment? Because medically we say that addiction is a chronic disease. It's just like diabetes or hypertension. Once you get it, the only solution is for you to manage the condition. So the same goes for this. So if we don't facilitate community reintegration or family reintegration, what happens is that they can easily lapse. So my project was the main objective of this project was to ensure that there is success-free achieve their treatment. Can go to the next slide. How did I address the issue? Okay, so the project sought patients between the ages of 18 and 35 who are interested in technical courses such as plumbing, masonry, hairdressing, welding, carpentry, and computer training. The project focused on rehabilitation and used an integrated approach to provide services such as psychosocial support, clinical review, and the technical courses. So basically, because this project involved the recovering drug addicts who are accessing the MAT services at the clinic, at the Kisoni MAT clinic, what we did is I wanted the project to be an integrated approach in that they would acquire other services such as psychosocial support, because in this program, we said that 10% is the methadone, the pharmacotherapy bit of it, but the 90% involves the psychosocial support. The psychosocial support, which will contribute to the family integration and community integration and other things such as hygiene and withdraw from criminal activities, and also clinical review and the technical courses. You can go to the next slide. So the execution of the CEP. Okay, first, my biggest win in the process was executing my project. In executing of my project was restoring dignity to the participants because they felt unwanted in the community, as well as underestimating their talents and abilities. For the 10 months that I have worked in this clinic, and I have interacted with the clients, one thing we understand is that at some point before they started using drugs, these guys, they had good families. Some had good jobs in big companies, but where they had some issues and they found themselves in drug abuse. And once you get there, I can say that addiction is cruel, it's merciless, because you lose everything. You lose even if you had millions in account, you lose them, you lose your properties, you lose your family, you lose your dignity. And so at the start of this program, what I did is that I brought them together and I facilitated sessions such as life skills, especially on self-awareness, self-esteem, whereby they had to be aware who they are, and at the same time they had to accept themselves so that they can start this process of community reintegration, whereby they have to accept themselves first before permitting other people, or rather telling others that they have changed. So for them, they had to change themselves first. And then the other win was helping the participants to network and share opportunities with recovering addicts who had technical jobs. And one thing about this was that those who had technical jobs, they volunteered to mentor the participants who were willing to learn plumbing and welding jobs. So this program started back in 2015, so it has been 7 years. And when you look at some of these clients, you can see like 5% have went off, and some another percentage they are on their way of winning off. So, and some of them, they have stable jobs. So what I did is I asked for their help and asked them to join my classes and the workshops so that they would encourage the others. At the same time, some volunteered to mentor their fellow clients there, so that to help them to generate income. And then my other success was the improvisation of available resources. So at the start of the project, I didn't have access to resources, especially to funds. So what I did, I made use of the available resources such as the venue, the stationery, and also the peer educators who are willing to help to ensure the success of this project. Next slide. the challenges, one of them is a lack of external funding from donors. One of the issues that I faced, and this was a major blow to me, was that we had general elections in August, and during that time, there was fear that there would be violence in our nation. So we had a contingency plan, and we opened 2 other septite clinics. And so the clients had to disperse. Some had to go to the other septite clinics, and with that, and at the same time, I couldn't access funds because from September to November, it has been a transition period whereby we are from one leadership to the other. And another challenge that we're facing as a county is we don't have funds at the moment because even the staff, they have not been paid. So even if I asked for the funds, I was told that I have to wait till they get money. And then clients did not attend in full force. This is because of the contingency plan, whereby we had issues in terms of the fare, the bus fare, and everything. And also there was no enrollment in technical courses. This because of the lack of funds to enroll these clients in the technical course. Yeah. The next slide. My memorable moment from the project. My favorite part of the SAP was when the clients expressed a desire to generate income by starting their own businesses in order to provide for their families. This was a huge success for me because when you interact with some of the staff at the clinic, they tell you that these clients, they're not ready to change. They're just here for their lifetime. But once you get a few clients who tell you that we want to change, we know that this program has given us a second chance of life. So let us utilize this opportunity. Where this was a huge success for me because the project was smooth. They are willing to learn, and they were willing to dedicate their time to learn these skills and to open their projects and businesses. Then next slide. The impact of the project. In most of our sessions, I've been facilitating life skills such as the self-awareness and self-esteem to ensure that participants find their purpose. And as a result, they were motivated and they were willing to participate in activities that will make them be productive. As I said earlier, we held sessions every day. And so each day had a topic to discuss, but I wanted to dwell on STEM because this is a difficult population. And as a result, they were motivated and they were willing to participate in activities that they make them productive. You could see that some of them, they had spent many years in prison due to criminal activities. But when we interacted with them, when we had these classes, they were willing to change. And in what way did the project alleviate the problem? The participants were impacted with skills to aid in family and community integration. For example, I was able to impact them with skills such as anger management, how to make use of the time, and how maybe to create opportunities. For example, I would tell them that if you're not able to open the businesses, you can undertake other activities such as volunteering in the community. Through that, they will be able to spend their free time engaging in positive activities rather than negative activities such as criminal activities. And ways in which the project would have expanded, I believe that adequate funding would have contributed to the project effectiveness, particularly the enrollment of participants in technical school, because these clients, they were willing to take part in this project, they were willing to go to school, and they wanted to open this project. So if there was funding, I'm sure that these guys would be in school right now as we speak, and they would be acquiring the skills. And next slide. Moving forward, and I anticipate that the project will last as long as the participants own it and they bring in new clients. And I'm in the process of educating the community about the importance of assisting recovering addicts as a step toward community integration. I've had 2 meetings so far with the area chief and community health volunteers who have agreed to educate the community about the importance of this project. So one of the things that I had to do was to engage the community. This is because you see, when you talk to the community, they'll tell you that some of these clients that they were involved in criminal activities, such as robbery, such as murder. And so for most of the community, they'll tell you that we don't want them back in our society because we've lost trust in them. But as we want to achieve this goal of reintegration, community reintegration, because we want to rehabilitate them, we want them to give them this second chance of life, I had to speak to the community. So what I did is that I had to adhere to the community entry process. So I talked to the chief and the area chief and the community volunteers who have direct access to the community, and they agreed to educate the community and to create awareness. And also, I will review the clients at least once a month to monitor their progress. Actually, it will be more than once a month because I interact with them on daily basis. So I have a constant interaction with them. Next slide. So my thanks and acknowledgements. I would like to thank the AMAP team and particularly my supervisor, Kedibon Chopin, for their assistance throughout my project, all the way from defining the problem and the goals and the support. I just want to say thank you. Yeah, and that was my presentation.
Thank you very much, Joy. You have really empowered and united the youth in the community, and coming from different backgrounds, you have really provided a common ground for them to work towards a common goal, which is to really get better, because health, is a very important aspect to look after. And you also, the innovative part of your presentation, your project, it is really going to provide with the continuation of this project. The youth will actually be able to go home with tangible skills that they can utilize to make a better living for themselves. Thank you very much. So the next ambassador that will be presenting will be Hayette. Hayette, if you're ready.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
We'll share the slide on our end.
You can share the slide.
The floor is yours, Hayette.
Please go to the first slide. The first one. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, let's go to the next. The next slide, please. Okay. So the problem that I try to fix is climate change in Africa. So doing my research on Africa, Africa is the less responsible for climate change in the world due to the lack of industrialization as compared to the other continents like Europe and America and Asia. But still, Africa is the most vulnerable continent due to the lack of infrastructure, due to the lack of support, financial support from the big countries like the G7 countries and all. So African countries, they really lack the support to do initiatives that help them move forward in the climate adaptation and in moving forward to climate action initiatives. So, so according to the UN's environmental program, Africa is still beyond the whole world. Like it's in many regions like North Africa and South Africa, uh, we're facing water shortage, for instance. It's a red zone when it comes to water shortage. And in West Africa, they have problems of floods. In East Africa, they have potential wars of water wars between countries like Ethiopia, Egypt, and so on. So it's the problem with climate change is that it has some sort of cascading impacts. So it starts only by pollution, by water shortage, by changes in the climate and all, but it ends up by food insecurity, water wars, massive migration, illegal migration, like what's happening in the sub-Saharan countries, and a lot of problems for the region, for the neighboring region. For instance, in North Africa, we have illegal immigration to the European countries, European neighbors. So it all starts small, but by the end it ends very big, and we lose our reputation as Africans. So there's also another problem is that the last submission of the United Nations framework of climate change of every country, African countries seems to be behind the integration of climate change in schools and in educational curricula. So young learners, they grow up knowing nothing about climate change. They just see it on the news or they see it and still they lack this awareness to cope with it. They see that the crops they lose a lot of crops. They see that the schools are shut down, like what's happening now in Nigeria and all, but they don't really understand how it functions, and because of um, the term specifics, like because people think that climate change is only for the experts, the people who done their studies in the environmental science and so on. So this is the main problem, and people they facing it, but still they don't have the tools, and they're not ready to encounter these problems. Can you please go to the next slide? Okay, so about my CEP, or I call it African Climate Action Traineeship. So I have organized a traineeship program for 6 weeks, in which it was actually online, and I had a lot of participants. Exactly, there were 37 persons across Africa. They come from 7 different countries, from countries like Kenya, like Ghana, Nigeria, uh, even South Africa. So they all gather from different countries, but the thing which is common between them is that they're all facing same problems, and they all lack this support, this kind of awareness in order to face it. So the traineeship program, I invited 5 guest speakers, and they are actually climate leaders across Africa, and most of them they are from the United Nations, the UNFCCC, and they are into climate politics, and some of them they empower women in the field of farming and all. So, but also the problem I had some modules like climate education, how the African culture stops climate education, the act of sorcery, the act of witchcraft and all, how people think. have this belief, and this really stops climate education from having a real impact in the continent. But also we had environmental politics workshop. I invited Mr. Mohammed from Libya, and he is the official representative of Libya in the United Nations. And he taught this young African youth how to write a policy draft for their governments. Like they be asking actual like actions, actual development plans according to what's impacting them like in their local community. Can you please go to the next slide? So about the execution of the CEP, I had like three major impacts. First of all, the project raised awareness about climate hazards among young Africans, especially the ones who don't have any background about the environment, about they are really living. Like it is happening everywhere, but they still cannot process the data, and they cannot have this organized reaction, and all the initiatives. And so the first thing was raising awareness. The second thing was providing green space for youth. For instance, writing a policy draft for policymakers in their area, and also talking about solutions, modern solutions. For instance, the application of artificial intelligence in early prediction of climate disasters before they happen. So we have done some sort of session with experts from Egypt and also Tunisia. They are actually working in Cairo on this project. So we have hosted an event about what they are doing and how they are predicting the disasters before they happen. And this really helps, it is in the public sphere. So people they be well prepared before the disaster happens. They can have this option of protecting their crops. They can shut down the schools and many other things. The third impact was decreasing the vulnerability to climate consequences. So in many countries in Africa, they lack this action plan, the adaptation plan when it's already happening. They're not really prepared because mostly about the lack of infrastructure. They don't have much tools. They lack the finance from the partners. So talking about climate change and educating people about how it happens, how can we adapt, and most importantly, how we can take this youth power and put it in the front of the national development action in climate change, and ask our policymakers for a more how to say for a more sustainable plan in our country, a plan that gathers everyone. It is sustainable, it is inclusive for youth, for indigenous people, for children, for everyone. So usually these populations, like youth and everyone, they are hindered. Like no one comes and asks them about what you think of our plans on how we can help with the children. So this was opening eye experience for them, and we really tried to help them raise their voice for their local community. Can you please go to the next slide? Okay, some challenges I faced. First of all, different working hours. So there were like we had to learn about each other time zone, and how we can make it workable for everyone. Second, the lack of participants' persistency. So, as I said before, like the number of participants at first was like about 53%, 53 persons, but we ended up only 37 persons because uh, the time in which I hosted our series of workshops, it was school time, and even though it was hosted in the weekend, but people they face very hard times of showing up and always sticking to the hours and all. And this actually links with the third challenge, which is virtuality of the event. Because I think if the event was in-person event, people would be more interested in doing like in workshops, in like they would be feeling like this sense of actually participating in the series of workshops. Can you please go to the next slide? Okay, so one memorable moment from the project. There were one participant from Kenya. His name is James, and like by reaching the end of the program, the 6th week, he just raised his hand and he asked me, "So this is our last session together. Like, are we supposed to stop here?" And my answer was like, "This is just the beginning." So it was just a small experience. It was just 6 weeks. It's nothing, but I'm very grateful that it contributed to your knowledge share, and it has opened your eyes to what you're all facing, but you're lacking the tools, you're lacking the experience. It's not your field, and no one talks about it like in informal way. It's always in very like buzzwords, very sophisticated words and all. So my answer was just like it's your turn to carry on the thing, to carry on the research and to carry on the action in your community. So I hosted my project in Algeria, but it reached 7 countries. So I hope this country, like in which my outreach reached, it will last. It will take a lot to last. So yeah. The next slide, please. There is the impact of the project. So we had 37 participants, as I said, from 7 countries, and we shared all of us.
Sorry, Hayette, you have a minute left to wrap up your presentation.
Okay, I'm about to end. So we shared one goal, which is raising awareness in the continent. The next slide, please. Okay, so the results, the success we had is first of all confidence for more inclusive policies, the confidence to ask our policymakers, and secondly is understanding each other's problems. So these people from different countries, they were from Nigeria, we learned about floods, from North Africa about drought and wildfires, in South Africa about water shortage. So we were all learning about each other. Thirdly is learned about climate finance in Africa and potential partners. By the end of the program, we have talked about the mission of Development Bank in Africa and how it finances African countries to do local projects. The next slide, please. Ways in which the project could be improved. So first of all, in-person meetings to make it more to make more presence. Also workshops and practical activities, and opportunities for graduates. So they will be more engaged and more freedom to continue the advocacy mission in their local communities. The next slide. The next slide, please. Moving forward, I really wish to take this initiative and do the legal thing, the paperwork and all, but also find potential partners and support, because I feel like if we be talking about technologies and all, we need assets, we need resources in order to teach people who are from different backgrounds about what can be done in their communities, and this will improve our outreach. The next slide, please. So thank you all for attending the session. I would acknowledge the effort of Africa Matters Initiative, the AMAP team, Kilibone, Tusa, my mentor, and my fellow ambassadors. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Hayette, for that. We hope that your virtual workshops, have provided the ambitious young Africans to be aware of what they can do to improve the quality of their lives, protecting our ecosystem, and hopefully, preserve natural resources for future generations. Without wasting any time, the next speaker is Lesego. So we will share slides on your behalf. When you're ready? Yes.
Yes, could you please do share my slides?
Later, you can share this. Stuart, I'm sorry. Stuart, you can share this.
Can you see the screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry, it was I was trying to change it to the PDF. I thought it was sharing.
Oh, okay, no problem. That's the first.
So can it only be this big? Okay.
I can make it a bit thinner if you want.
Yes, please.
Sure. Is that better?
Aha, yes. I can start now. Hello, everybody. My name is Lesego Mpshe. I am founder and a creative at Lesego Craft Academy. That is all the way from South Africa. So what we do at the Craft Academy is that we provide creative sewing skills, but it's not only that. We have broadened our curriculum into providing financial literacy as well, amongst other subjects that we want to include. But at the moment, we are focusing on the financial literacy. So the problem that we have identified was lack of financial management skills. It was something especially that was after the session with the AMAP, where I did a thorough research on where exactly we stand on finances. It has come to a realization that financial literacy skills, especially in Africa, are a bit low. So that's where my project is stemming from. So together with my team, we held a financial literacy workshop that was hosted by Money Mondays with Omega. So what he did was where learners were taught how to save money, ways to make money, why is it important to have money management skills, how to build wealth, and how to invest. I think one of the reasons why we seem to have a little bit of a bad narrative, especially when it comes to finances, it's not because really we are poor. It's not that we are poor. It's because there's certain skills that we don't have that are holding us back from reaching the wealth that we need to have. So that was the financial literacy project that was coming from. Next slide, please. So these were our facilitators, and the three successes that we have was that we usually have, the craft classes, I usually have only 5 learners, which is quite a very comfortable space that I'm used to. But this time we had took ourselves outside of our comfort zone, and we have literally 24 learners that were available to learn, that were readily that wanted to learn this new skill other than the one that I usually do. After the session, we had inquiries from parents and caregivers on whether we could host our financial workshops for adults, which is one of my biggest successes, because the people that are not doing quite well when it comes to money management skills, it's the adults. And then the young learners are taking it, or the young kids or whomever that is at home are learning these things from home. So when I was trying to bring in the young learners, was me trying to cut this vicious cycle. So I'm glad that because adults are quite stringent with the way they do things, but the fact that they have the flexibility to wanna learn something new, they want to learn how to make money, they want to learn how to invest, they want to learn how to save for their kids. It was something that is very commendable. Another thing that was huge for us is that we're going to have 13 learners that are going to start their investment portfolios just before 2022, while others can do it after 2023 due to the distance. But this time we have 13 that are will be having them, that we're going to start their investment portfolios from the ages of 13, between the ages of 13 and 18. The next slide, please. So some of the three challenges were simply because we were outside of our comfort zone. We had to host the financial literacy workshop elsewhere at the hall. We had to book the projectors. We had to make sure Wi-Fi was okay and the PC was working quite well, but some of the things we don't have control over. So we had a lot of technical glitches. The PC was not responding, the projector was not responding, and all of those things. When we were doing our test drive, it was just fine. But those are the challenges that we have, and which led to the class taking longer than expected, and as well as making some few arrangements here and there. From not using the projector anymore, we had to put the learners into a few groups now that we have to have the learners attend the sessions through their phones and download the Zoom for them and do hotspot. It was just a whole lot of dynamics behind of that. So it made the class quite almost lose momentum, but I'm glad we gained it. But it took longer than I expected. But however, the class was a success. Next slide, please. So this is our mini memory lane. We're there at the bottom with my team and I, where we are trying to be IT persons, trying to fix these technical glitches. But however, we did manage, on the first photo, we did manage to put the learners into groups. And then for some reason, they did enjoy the fact that they had to be on the Zoom, because it's something that they're not used to. They're used to in-person classes. So the fact that they had to mute and unmute and do the chat box was something that was quite new to them, and they warmed up to it. So yeah, they liked it. And then on the other picture at the bottom, it's where we had after the session, we had an evaluation class where they had to present what's their next goal, what is it they had learned, and some few tea time in the morning. Next slide, please. This was the 24 learners alongside with the 2 facilitators that I had. So yeah, next slide, please. So the evaluation of the CEP was that we had 24 learners who came through, which was quite big for me. As I mentioned, I usually have 5 learners, and it's very comfortable to have 5 learners. But to have 24 learners outside of my comfort zone, it was something so big. who were open. They could have went elsewhere. They could have attended other classes, or they could have done something else with their Saturday, but they chose to come through for this financial literacy workshop. And it was quite commendable of the interest that they had. In what ways I helped to alleviate the issue? It was a matter of trying to broaden the scope with regards to finances. I think we're used to basic things like, you must budget, you must save bit money here and there, but nobody's teaching us how to invest. Nobody's teaching us what JSE does. Nobody is teaching us what stocks are. Nobody's teaching us how to build wealth. So that was me and the team trying to bridge that gap with the from the mainstream, what the mainstream education is giving to the learners. So we're just broadening their scope on how to manage their finances and how to build their wealth. So what we could do that is quite different was is to make a survey to ask them what is it exactly that they want to learn, because this time was me saying, this is what I think, guys, you should learn, and this is why it is important. But I think on my next approach would be, what is it, guys, that you want to learn? What is it about money that you know, so that we can incorporate it for our next workshop? So yeah, next slide, please. So our next step is to stop waiting. Our next step is to put things into practice and have other tangible goals. Next slide, please. So what we're gonna do, we are currently writing proposals into raising funds to having this, to have a 10 to 6 month financial literacy workshop program. I think if we start now by the end of 2023, we could have had at least 50 learners and 50 adults who have their own investment portfolios, who know how to save money, who know how to read foreign currencies and all of that. But what the financial will include, it will include how to make research when investing, especially for young learners. The sooner they start from the ages of 13, by the time they are 20 or 25, they could have had a big sum of, I don't know whether it will drop in the meantime or it will increase, but at least they would have something that is tangible that they did when they were 13. So it's going to be also inclusive of how to buy shares in South Africa, on understanding risks of investment, on how to observe the JSE, on how to buy stocks or how to buy bonds. Those things will be the ones that are inclusive of the 6 months program. Also, I come from a region that is very highly populated. The picture that is below depicts exactly the front opposite, not further from my house. This is what we are dealing with. We are dealing with sanitary towels, nappies, and other dumping, and we are struggling to the municipality doesn't fetch our weights. So what I want to do is create some sort of awareness and environmental sustainability workshops within my curriculum, just so we bridge that gap from the municipality not doing a certain job that they're supposed to do. Maybe at least giving some sort of awareness or education on how to dispose such things, because they are just all over the township. They are just all over. They are just in the water. So if we were to teach people how to dispose such, if we were to teach people on how to on probably recycling, but we do have somebody that we are in communication with from the Eco Nation that is well versed in such in such topics. So that is the two that will be running from now up until 2023. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm done. Oh, okay. Yes. So it's going to be a thank you very much to Africa Matters, because these things, when they started as just ideas. The financial literacy was just something that I had written down, and it's going to be part of the plan. I wasn't even sure when it was going to be implemented, but I am glad through your support, guys, the AMAP team, my team leader, Laika, and everybody for taking us throughout this journey. I really, really appreciate it, especially for sponsoring. It wouldn't have been a success had I had not that sponsorship, because there was a lot behind the scenes. A large thank you to the person who was hosting the financial literacy, who was giving us so much wisdom on finances and being patient with arrangements, the up and downs on the technical issues. They were very patient. And to my team, Lero Craft Academy team, I have learned so much with when it comes to young learners, and I am glad that I had not hosted this thing by myself, because it would have been so much struggle. So to everybody who made this made a project a success, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Lesego, for that. You know, it excites us to hear that, you know, these online sessions, they really provide our ambassadors with the knowledge and the skills to really apply on a daily basis. You really have, you know, sort of like elaborated on how you provide information for these young ones, that, you know, a lack of financial literacy does not really affect people in like economically emerging or developing economies, but it does affect people in those economies. And as consumers, we are really shouldering more financial decisions. And if we're not aware, you know, low financial literacy will leave us millennials really being unprepared for severe financial costs. Thank you very much. Then we have our last speaker for today, and that is Hilary. Hilary, the floor is yours. Stuart. Hilary, the floor is yours.
Hello, please, can you get me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, thank you very much. Good afternoon, good evening to everyone. I'm Hilary from Cameroon, and I will be presenting on my community engagement project that took place on November 2022. That is on the 29th of November 2022. Please, the next slide. All right, you can see this is the event venue, and this photo was actually taken in the morning where the participants started arriving at the event, and the venue was it was still in the process of being set up. Right, the next slide, please. Okay, you can see this is the event proper, and you can see the participants. They were mostly university students from different faculties, and we have some people among them who were already workers, and also grateful having them. Right, the next slide. Okay, my community engagement project was organized under the theme Know Your Future and Master the Present Opportunities. The youth in our society today actually are fed up with the way of governance, the bad government, the corruption in the society, and most of them get to engage in several antisocial activities that actually derail their focus of being potential leaders in the future. So the intention was actually to let them know, to tickle them, to regain back that positive energy that will actually drive them towards the journey of leadership. As it is always said that each and everyone is a leader in his or her own sphere. So that is what inspired me with the theme, Know Your Future and Master the Present Opportunities. Please, the next slide. All right. The main objective of my CEP was to build transformers who are ready to contribute to peace building and development of their respective communities. Yes, I was aware that I could not reach a population of about 5 million in this part of the country. That is the northwest region of the country. So the only thing I could do was to train other young people like I am, so that wherever we find ourselves, we will be able to pass the training on to the people that are around us. And I believe in the ripple effect that will keep on creating meaningful impact in their respective communities. So the specific objectives were to build up youth leaders with integrity and peace-conserving mindset. You know, we're living in a society where peace is fast degrading due to the socio-economic crisis and the socio-political crisis that we're facing, which is which has resulted to an armed conflict between separatist fighters and the government. So somehow peace is the most clamored for in our society today. So I was equally one of the specific objectives was to first century, most of the people phones in the Facebook discussing or chatting with friends. So it was one of the objectives was to expose you to the numerous opportunities and achievements they can use their internet and their smartphones to have, like exposing them to learning platforms such as Coursera, Alison, and equally some of the websites that give out or publish out job opportunities. So that was one of the specific objectives. And the last was to build up a self-reliant youth, a youth that will not sit and wait for their parents to provide for them always, or wait for the old leaders to leave so that they can occupy position, but youths that will already be self-reliant, so much so that with or without positions in the society, they will still be able to live a decent life in the society. Right, the next slide. Right, the planning and coordination of my CEP. So the planning for the CEP started with gaining adequate knowledge on organizing and executing project through the numerous CEP sessions organized by the AMAP team, developing a flyer of the necessary to keep. Please, can you go to the next? Okay, thank you. Oh, my fears during the planning phase. We are actually living in a society where, like I said before, youths are really fed up. And sometimes when you pick up or take up an initiative, some of the youths get to ask questions like, how, of what help would this be to me? Will money be shared at that workshop? Will money be shared at that workshop? In fact, how is this going to benefit me financially or materially? So somehow when the youth registered, I was quite happy that youth actually showed some interest. But then I was still afraid, like, what if they finally don't show up? What if the separatist fighters suddenly declare a lockdown, as it is a routine in the present state of the northwest region of Cameroon? The fear was, what if something happens and one of the facilitators says, sorry, oh, I'm sorry, I won't make it for the workshop again. And was like, what if the woman to take care of the catering service disappoints? What am I going to do? So all of these questions are actually running on my mind, gave me the energy or pricked me to actually make sure that I get into constant communication with all of the people, the stakeholders that were supposed to make this event go successfully. Right, the next slide, please. Okay, my community engagement project was presented on 4 key topics. The first one was bridging the gap between the young and the old. You know, because the youth are fed up with the very old people that are in governments today, developing this stereotype mindset of that it is always said the young people are the leaders of tomorrow, but in Cameroon, it is not the case. So you find young people actually getting into making the society being very brutal. And get it wrong. I also true to move when closer to the most young people have not registered. They don't own a voter's card. Yet they desire a political change. They desire a change of leadership. So the question was like, if you desire change in the political system, so why don't you own a voter's card that will permit you to decide who leads you? So if to engage the system, you have to move closer to the system. And then the second point was young people should avoid ignorant optimism. You know, we are living in a society where sometimes young people feel like, oh, they know everything. So because they just have an idea, they got an idea, they bust up and they're like, oh, we know everything. So it at times makes the old people to be afraid, like, oh, these guys are so radical now, are so radical. If they finally get into leadership positions, we can be overthrown, we can be slapped on the face. So they should avoid ignorant optimism. They should extend a hand of fellowship. And the young people, one of the most important points was that the young people should add value to themselves and prove their worth. You cannot keep on blaming the old people and never equipping yourself to replace them, to prove to them that you can actually carry out the tasks that they are failing to carry. So we have to take, the young people equally have to take a necessary bold step, which is either to take an initiative to do something that is different from what people, from the status quo. And then young people should equally create an initiative. So these are things that will add value to themselves and will equally make them very much an asset to the society. And this is what will...
Sorry to disturb you. You have about 2 minutes left.
Oh, okay, thank you. Right, thank you. Okay, please, the next slide. All right, Mr. Scott took on leadership, where he discussed on the different type of leadership, the character of good leaders, of which we talk on integrity, we talk on good governance and accountability. He cuts across every aspect or every activity that leaders do carry and how they must be of good conduct for their followers to actually learn from them and follow them always. Please go to the next slide. All right, entrepreneurship was taken by Ms. Nkesa Akinibom. He talked of on building a self-reliant youth, how to start a business or build on an idea, transforming data into achievement, these which I had already mentioned before. They talk on the various online platforms that expose you to numerous opportunities. Please, the next slide. Right. Oh, I myself, I talk on the topic from violence to a culture of peace. This was just to crown every other thing that has been said, that we will not do a dime or practice a dime of whatever we have been listening to or talking about if we do not create a peaceful environment that will permit development. So in due course, I asked the youth or the participants to identify some of the antisocial activities that threaten societal peace, and then equally asked them to identify ways in which a peaceful environment can be guaranteed for development to take place. So I asked them to do all of these so that they should identify themselves within everything. Because by doing this, I was giving them an opportunity to speak to themselves, to advise themselves. And then at the end of the day, we out to
Hilary, you are breaching off. I don't know if you can hear us. Hilary, are you there? I think Hilary just... Oh. Can you hear us, Hilary?
I think Hilary may have dropped off the call. I don't see him on the participants list.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we can maybe move on, and then if he does hop on to the call at some point, then just ask him to just, within a minute, just summarize his entire CEP work, etc., so that he doesn't take up too much of the program time. So yeah.
Okay. So, Hilary experiencing network issues. After his presentation, we will going to open the floor for questions from the team, the participants that attended the session. If you have any questions, relating to all the ambassadors community engagement projects, you are more than welcome to type the questions so that they can elaborate or tell you more, about what they actually spoke about today. So I'm opening the floor for the Q&A session. You can drop some of your questions in the chat, or you can unmute and ask any ambassador. Don't be shy, guys.
Even if you have any comments to share with the ambassadors, any recommendations, anything of that sort, this is now the time to share. I see that Stuart has his hand up, and then Hayette.
Thank you so much. I thought I would start maybe to break the ice a bit. I have a question for Daisy, with regards to partnerships. Daisy, you mentioned that kind of like one of the big struggles was or challenges was kind of the you having to kind of coordinate everything kind of and balance everything on your own. So how kind of would your partnership how would that kind of what would that kind of look like? Is that something you've given thought about? What would you need assistance with in terms of running taking the project further?
Okay, thank you, Stuart. So I was thinking in terms of partnerships, I was thinking about approaching organizations that are already established, probably working in the same field, so that we can collaborate on the advocacy program. So the thing that I would need help with is probably just approaching these organizations, because I realize that when I approach them as an individual, it's really hard to convince them, uh, to actually take time and invest themselves in the project. So maybe that would help me. But those are I was thinking along that line.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Really interesting presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Then over to you, Hayette.
Thank you. So my question is also for Daisy. Daisy, since you have mentioned that the problem you have targeted is already a taboo in Kenya. So when you have done your initiative, did you face any challenges targeting the disease? Did you get any kind of like social conflict, like any kind of comments or anything?
Okay. So I think the only challenge that I faced is that sometimes there was resistance from some of the community members. Like Esther's example, before she was taken to the hospital, her family was really resistant to her being taken to the hospital because I think they felt that it was bringing shame to their family, so they were against their mother being taken to the hospital. So some people are really against the idea of coming out like that, which makes them resist. But I think as of now, because the information is out there, more people are now open to it. But I didn't get that like a big challenge like that when interacting with people. It was just that resistance, because again it's because of the shame that is associated with the condition.
Thanks so much for responding. I'm gonna hand it back over to Kitty.
Thank you. I can see that Hilary is back on the call. So just to be really respectful of time, Hilary, just summarize project so that we can allow the Q&A session to proceed. So be very brief. Did you get that, Hilary? Are you struggling?
Hello?
Did you hear me? Did you get that?
All right.
Just summarize, the last parts of your presentation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm actually getting to the end.
Okay.
Okay. The next thing is my AMAP experience. I think the AMAP team has actually been quite supportive. Their frequent check on the progress of the community engagement project was actually the energy and the what caused me to actually make sure that I tried my best to organize to make sure that the workshop was successful. And then the CEP sessions equally exposed me on how to organize and execute a project. And I think I really say I do appreciate so much all that I have learned in my journey as an African Matters Ambassador. And I would say that not a single lesson that you gave out actually went in vain, because it helped me, it empowered me, and it gave me so much that will help me even as I grow up as a young person in my career and in all that I do. Right. The workshop ended with the awarding of certificate, which with the logo of the African Matters Ambassador on it. So I will say that the African Matters Initiative actually reached the Northwest region of Cameroon. So thank you very much, the African Matters Ambassador Program team, and all of my co-ambassadors, for you were such a great inspiration to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hilary, for that. Really, this shows that, communication, emotional awareness, and empathy are crucial elements of conflict resolution, peace building, and really this can lead to high functioning and more satisfying relationships in all aspects of life. Thank you very much, Hilary. We are opening the floor again with a few minutes left before we close off the session. If the ambassadors or guests have any questions for ambassadors, please do so.
I think I just have one particular comment for Lesego's her plans moving forward with her CEP. So I noted that with one of the challenges that she came across in her CEP implementation was that aspect of digital skills and the digital divide that came in when trying to interact with the presenter, especially when things currently didn't go as planned, and seeing that visible gap. I thought that maybe because that was something that was noticed in your CEP implementation, maybe as you are building on the curriculum thereof to expand to environmental sustainability, maybe another aspect of building on your academy and your educational program could be incorporating digital skills and actually trying to bridge the digital divide through teaching young people about these various modes of digital skills and technologies to kind of connect with the world and the content that they're actually engaging with as well. So if not in its own separate type of space, but maybe to like properly incorporate it into all of these various programmatic things that you're building on. So if it's not a direct training space, then at least they are indirectly also engaging with digital skills to bridge the digital divide. I thought that might be something that you might think about in terms of your curriculum moving forward. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Laika. I will do that. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, all. I was enjoying your presentations, but at a point I had to leave because I had another meeting with the fundraising team. And actually, just a little recommendation. I think it's a general one. At least the two presentations I heard, they're beautiful. I just needed to add that most times when you are doing a community engagement program, it's most times the bottom-up strategy that is being applied, where you have identified the problem that you want to work with, but it's something that you can't work alone because it's a community stuff, it's a community project. You need to always involve the community. You need to always involve the stakeholders. That is why most times programs fail, even from international organizations. They bring their own idea, they want to take over. But once you involve the community from the planning to implementation and even to evaluation, then you have a success. Because even as you are evaluating, where you realize that you have a gap in the middle, you go back to the drawing board again and start. So it's very, very important that in any community engagement program or project, you involve the community, especially the stakeholders. They are the gatekeepers. They are the ones that will ensure that your work is successful. No matter how beautiful strategies and plans you have, if you do not involve them from even implementation, you might have challenges along the way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lucy, for that. That was very insightful. If there aren't any questions, I will just proceed to say my last words for the ambassadors. Thank you very much for your presentations. It was very, very inspiring. Being engaged with the community which you live in is really essential to the growth and development of the community. So it is greatly important because there are people within our community who need the help of others. If there aren't any questions, any comment, any advice, I will give back the platform to Laika to close off, wrap up the session.
Thank you so much, Katie, and thank you so much also to Stuart for manning the technologies and, for coordinating that. And, a massive thank you to the ambassadors. I think the ambassadors are the main shining stars of this particular session and of this work, because they have done the work on the ground. They have worked within their communities and they have developed these beautiful, beautiful projects that I hope that through continuous evaluation and planning that they are able to execute well past this program. So thank you so much for your efforts. Thank you so much for the work that you have put in. And I hope and pray that, moving forward, that these projects grow and flourish into these beacons of change within your communities. So thank you so much for the work that you have put in. And thank you so much for those who have joined us, but those who have not presented, fellow ambassadors who have shown their support, fellow AMI members who tuned in and shared their congratulations of the ambassadors' work, as well as, mentors who have also tuned in, to see the work of some of the mentees throughout the program. And to all of those who are watching the recording, I do thank you so much for taking the time to actually see the work of the ambassadors in the Africa Matters Ambassadors program. And I hope that, it has helped to inspire you and to see that, as young people on the African continent and beyond, that we are the ones that we have been waiting for. So thank you so much. If you would like to reach out to us, please do email the AMAP team at AMAP, which is AMAP at africamattersinitiative.com. Thank you so much. Have a brilliant day further, everyone. And yeah, thank you so much for supporting our work.
Thanks so much, Leika. So just before everyone leaves, just a reminder that the next set of presentations will be happening on the 30th of November at 6:30 South African Standard Time. So yeah, I look forward to seeing everyone there.